Yeah, I know it's been a little while since I've done a change out video, so I figured, what the hell? Every good pandemic needs a change out video. And I'm going to give a couple pieces of advice too.
Hear that? That's the sound of money. You wanna know what sound of money is? That's it. Ching, 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 ching. Ching.
Not for me, because I already know this stuff. One of the neat things right now is everybody's in the same boat. Every country's economy is kind of going down. Every country real estate's going down. Every country car sales are going down. And you might wonder, what's that got to do with the price of tea in China? Well, what it is if you've ever said to yourself, you know, when the economy goes bad, I'm going to do this, this, and this. Well, here's your opportunity, folks. This is your opportunity to buy that property you've always dreamed of. This is your opportunity to buy that stock at a discounted price. But do you know what happens? I mean, this is what happens every time. Even 2008 was like this. What happens is when people want to do it, they're not in a position because that has affected them. They weren't prepared for it. Now, you might have a few bucks or a few things going on, and that's great. What you got to remember is when you buy property or you buy a stock, there's risk involved. The risk right now is, will things improve? That keeps a lot of people out of the market. It keeps other countries out of your market because we get a lot of people from overseas that buy property here. That keeps them away because they're busy dealing with other things right now. And that gives you a buying opportunity. Now, the thing about timing it is trying to figure out how long this is going to be so that you're not stuck with a property that, you know, might take you 3 years to recoup or it might take you 4 months or whatever. That's another whole nother lesson there. But like I said, now is an opportunity. And you're all going to be like, no, John Keenan. I know, but there's still people that will not take the leap of faith and go do what they want to do. And the reason is, they're scared. And it ain't going to get any better than this. So, that's my big advice to you. And part of that, the reason there's so much money to be made is because of that risk. That's what makes this an opportunity. If everything was rosy and sunshine like it was last year, there's no opportunity. Well, it's because everything's good. When everything's good, nobody wants to get rid of nothing. When everything's good, everybody's making money, and no one can find anything cheap because people have all this money, keep running the prices up. Well, right now you don't have that. So that's how this is an opportunity. And the reason I'm talking about that here is because I bought this place in 2009, 2010. I think it was 2010. And the reason I got it was because everybody else was scared. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I didn't even know the recession was going on in 2008, 2009. I didn't know. And I know you're going to be like, well, how did you not know? I was making a lot of money then. I didn't even know anything was going on. One day, my banker in 2011 or 2012, I think, my banker was walking through the building, said, hey, Keenan, you survived the Great Recession. What recession? Because my properties were all making kick-ass amounts of money. My rental property was up. My vacancies were down. I mean, it was just insane. So it happens. I probably wouldn't know about this downturn if it wasn't for the missing toilet paper. Because honestly, I'm still putting money in the bucket. My tenants are still able to pay rent. Now, have I reduced rent? Have I let some tenants skip a month? Yeah. But I got tenants I've had for 20 years. Let that sink in. I've had the same tenant for 20 years. You don't do that if you're a shyster landlord. You do that when you're a good landlord. So I've always rented my properties for less than market value, and I've always fixed them up really nice, but not getting carried away. And in the process, I've always had the cream of the crop of tenants, and I've always had my property rented. Food for thought. If you want to be the guy chasing the really high rents, you're also going to always be chasing for tenants because they're going to move. And they're going to move because they can't afford you. And someone else is going to have move-in specials, you know, the new place down the street, 2 months free or a month free, or we'll move you in. I don't compete against that because I'm already beating those places. Now I'm going to talk about another thing, opportunity. And this recession, or this depression, or deflation, or stagflation, or whatever we're going to call it, because it's going to have a name. They won't come up with it for like 2 months after we figured out what we did, okay? Opportunity presents itself at the worst possible time. It happens all the time. And I'll give you a prime example. I showed you in that video my pond. Now, I used to own only like about 2.5 acres there at my property. I now own right around 4 to 5. You're like, well, how'd you grow it? Well, my neighbor behind me got divorced. They put their house up for sale. It was real cheap. I bought it. I did a few improvements to it. I put it on the market for another $60,000 more, sold it, split off a bunch of their land, and made my yard about 4.5 acres. I gained around my pond, so I controlled my pond all before, but my pond used to only be about 15 feet from the property line. It was a real stupid property. Bothered me like no end. It was annoying. So we gained trees, we gained yard, everything. Well, when that happened, we were right in the middle of paying taxes, which we had a $20,000 or $30,000 tax bill, which is not bad. I mean, that's pretty normal for me on a year. And that's just income. That's not real estate. I mean, I pay a lot more than real estate. And it was just at a bad time. And my wife goes, God, this is a horrible time. I go, you know what? That's the thing about opportunities. They always present themselves at your worst time. And we had somebody who was sick. We had a bunch of other things going on. I said, we got to jump on it. And we did. And my wife's like, this is dumb. But it worked out. Within 60 days, we had it turned around and sold, a land split off, and we had our property. And it only cost us on the whole deal to get those 2 acres. By the time it was all said and done, I think it cost us like $3,000. You can't buy yard. You can't make your property bigger. Whenever a property comes up for sale next to you, you have an opportunity at that moment to do something or to just shut up and never talk about it again. Like I said, I told my wife, I said, remember, opportunity always presents itself at the worst time. What do we have right now? The worst time. There's opportunities. You either got to jump in and take a swim or get out of the way and let me do it. Because that's what's going to happen here, folks. And you know what you're going to say 2 years from now? I wish I would have. I hear people say that all the time and it drives me crazy. And people like bankers, realtors, credit loan banks, people that work in these industries will say that to me. Appraisers, I always hear appraisers say it. They go, yeah, I wish I would have. I'm not saying you got to go buy your whole neighborhood. One property can change your life. And I'm not kidding. One rental property can easily make you anywhere from $2,000 to $1,000 more a month. So if you don't want an extra $200 or $1,000 a month, then don't worry about it. Let me have it, and I'll go ahead and take care of myself. But that's what's going on right now, folks. Just the biggest advice I got for you is your opportunities will never present themselves when you're ready. Wow, I have all the money I need and the opportunity presented itself at the same time? That is what we call a unicorn. That doesn't happen, folks. I'm sorry. Hate to burst your bubble. It's very rare that that happens. Now, Warren Buffett can pull that trick off. He's been doing it a long time. I'm not Warren Buffett, but I'm still buying good deals. Now, the funny one is when people are buying really expensive property, overpriced property, when the downturn like this happens, then you get screwed. And that's what's happened to some of these big guys. Like, if you watch a lot of YouTube, you probably know who Grant Cardone is. You know, he's just foaming at the mouth to find properties. Well, I don't think he's foaming right now. Now, he's a good guy and he's got a lot going on. I'm not knocking anybody that's got something going on. But I've learned over the years with my parents, wait for a deal. Wait for your opportunities. Don't rush into stuff. There's always something for sale. Every time I buy a nice property, I think, man, I'll never find another deal like this. Son of a gun. The next day, the best deal I ever see pops right up. And sometimes I'm still able to get it. Sometimes, since I just started a project, I gotta wait because my wife will kill me. And you know what? I like my life. I don't really want my wife to be upset with me. So I can't do too many things at one time or it really drives me crazy. This is the change machine, by the way, that I'm building. I'll show you. It's going to go over on this other wall. This is the one that's going to have the arcade in it. And this change machine is just, it's got to go. If you want to see a bucket of quarters, look at this bucket. Huh? Stick that in the mud, huh? Want to see how much my vending, holy cow, that's 4 days. And I'd say that's, I don't know, we'll count it here. Any more in there? Nope. Let's count this, see what we got, okay, guys? I see a lot of people talking about the big kids, you know, are going to go bankrupt. They're not. And the reason they're not, even if they're really leveraged, I mean, unless they're really leveraged, I mean, to the point of like not really good situation, the Grant Cardones and that are still going to come out of this smelling like a rose because their banks are so tied up in their property, they have to help them. Because otherwise they're going to have to try to sell it on a bad market. They're going to work with them. I know it sucks, but you wait and see. They'll come out of this and they'll even buy some deals in the process once they start feeling better about themselves. And that's just the way it works, folks. Sorry. I mean, now if you're new to the game and you just start buying property, you may not have that luck, and the reason is you don't have that relationship built up. But even like me, I told you early on, I went and talked to my bank, and people are like, you better get that in writing and all this other jazz. I've got myself covered. Don't worry about me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 18. Made $18 in 3 days on that silly POW game. Can you imagine what my race car game is going to make? I mean, $18 in 3 days. Actually, 4 days. Take it back. 4 days. That is insane. Oh. The video's over. The video's over. There's no more. Okay. I'll give you a little more content, okay? How's that sound? I want to answer a few questions. I had a viewer ask me some questions about laundromats. But this viewer asked me, basically, a single parent, had a couple kids, was looking at a business. Laundromats, if you have never done it before, you need to buy an existing laundromat. And the reason I'm going to tell you this is I built one and I bought ones that are running. The ones that are running have a customer base. All you got to do is maybe improve it and get the customers to come back and keep them happy, as opposed to starting a new one in the middle of nowhere. You're not going to be able to draw those customers. Now, when people talk about populations, next question was where to build one, population. Like I said before, in the Midwest, we don't build one unless it's got a 30,000, 40,000 population, because we know there's no customer base. So if you're in a town of 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, and there's already 3 laundromats, unless they're completely run down, there's probably hardly any business. Now, if there's, like this viewer told me there was 3 in a town of 4,000, that's really strange, because in our area, if we had a town of 4,000, we don't even have a laundromat, because people just don't, in those smaller towns, there are country towns, everybody's got a washer and dryer, or they're living in an apartment building that already has machines. They're not going to leave that unit. But you don't want to be outside of town. You don't want to be too far away. You want to be right where your customers are. Rental property, low income housing, lower income part of town, not the ghetto, but you want to be in the nice part of it. You don't want to be in the high end of part of town. The only time you're going to get customers then is if they're doing their bed. Well, those people wash their bed twice a year, maybe 3 times a year, and that's not much of a customer base. Now, the kind of equipment, that's real easy. I like all Alliance Laundry brand equipment. If you have other laundromats in your town, look at the business they're doing. Go watch them. Is a laundromat for everybody? If you can't work on the equipment, and you can't manage money, and you can't deal with trouble, like you see my videos where I'm dealing with just oddball people, then it's not for you. You're going to have to deal with that. And the problem with certain businesses, like my bankers always tell me, is be careful what you buy, Keenan, and be careful what you pay for it, because you always want to be able to get back out of it. Like if you watch Chock full of Quarters, there's a husband and wife. They work really good together. They can do different parts. That's a great setup. So if you're by yourself and you got this other responsibility, it's going to be hard. I'm just letting you know it's going to be hard. In that situation, what I would recommend for someone is buy yourself, and this is my example, this is the best example, buy yourself a 4-unit or 6-unit apartment building. Live in one of the units, let the rest of the tenants pay for your building, pay for your unit, and you make some money. If you're looking for passive income, that is a single person that can't do a whole lot but can do some, find a nice one. You will spend less money and have a bigger return than if you buy a laundromat. And I know that's opposite what you thought I'd say, but that's what I would look for. Now, am I going to have my laundromats forever? Maybe, maybe not. Let's say we get back out of this virus thing and the economy takes off and people realize laundromats made money the whole time. I made money in the recession. I made money in the great pandemic. People are going to go, that's a neat business, and I'm going to be able to peddle it. Now, I didn't pay nothing for them, but I increased the business. I added value. They're worth a lot more. Well, when we come out of this thing, say I bought a big elephant property. Maybe I'm in the process of buying one now. Maybe in the middle of this pandemic, I find the white whale of properties to buy. Great big apartment building, great big real estate in another state even. And I can sell those 3 and pay for it. And you see, those people that bought that, people that use that laundromat, they paid for that for me to do that. I may do that. You know, I may keep them and let my kids run them and have another property. I don't know. But if you're single and you got kids and you're looking for something to do, my advice, 6 to 8 unit apartment building, you could easily clear in my area. I'm in the Midwest, in the country. 2-bedroom units are getting anywhere from $500 to $900 a month. I know that isn't a lot if you're in California or New York or Miami, but in our area that is a lot. An 8-unit apartment building right now in my area, there's one for sale for $180,000, and it's all remodeled. Now it's because the economy's in the tank and nobody wants to buy rental property, so this is the perfect time to buy rental property. I know they're not paying rent, but let's think about it this way. If you're single and you have a house, get rid of that house and live in one of those units. Now your house payment is your apartment building, and every little rent you get is going to be more money in your pocket. Hire someone to mow the grass. Hire someone to spray for bugs once in a while. You will have an unreal setup. You won't have to worry about every little thing. And this is the other piece of advice. If you do this, do not at any time, do not tell your tenants you own the property. My parents taught me this when I was a kid. Never tell, and it's at the laundromats, I tell people I'm the worker. And the reason I tell them the worker is they take pity on me instead of thinking I'm the man that's putting them down. And they'll be more honest with me. So when you have a rental property, tell them that you're the maintenance guy. Tell them you're the super. Don't tell them you're the owner. But have nice property. Keep it up. You know, keep up the property. But don't tell them you're the owner. I made that mistake early on in my rental career. I always wondered why my dad always told people when the apartment buildings my parents owned, and my parents owned a lot of property. They owned entire neighborhoods. When in the 70s, when people went bankrupt, they bought out neighborhoods. I mean, it was cool. I'll get into that later too, about what my parents did. It was amazing. And they would literally, we would on a weekend go to the apartment building, and my dad would be like, hey, I'm here to fix your toilet, or I'm here to fix the boiler, the furnace, or the water heater. And they would be like, it's pretty neat, you get paid good by the owner? And I'd look at my dad like, what do you mean get paid by, don't we own these? And my dad would be like, shh, shh, don't say anything. And he explained that to me when I was like 6. Now, I didn't hear that advice when I bought my first rental property. And what happened? The first day I showed up in a brand new pickup truck, the tenant looks out that door, handed me the rent check and goes, well, I see where my rent's going. And then I had a list. Everything I needed to do this house. I need blacktop driveway. I need a garage. I need, you know, this house didn't have a garage. I'm not building a garage. Then they're mad, you know, because they see the truck. Well, you can obviously afford it. So don't tell people you own it. Number 1 rule in Keenan's book, you never tell anybody you own anything. You're just a hired hand, you're a worker. Trust me. For your advice on all the stuff like a laundromat, in your situation, I would actually recommend you buy a small apartment building and live in it. unless you live like in a mansion or a really nice house and you just love it, or live in a duplex or a triplex, you know, you won't get as much money. But in my area, the 6 to 8 unit buildings are just, they're really good. I wish when I graduated college I'd actually bought one and lived in it, because by the time I got married and had a kid and got to where I wanted to live in this property I live now, it would have been paid for, and I would have had 8 units making me $3, $4, $5 grand a month paid for. So even if you only make $2,000 or $3,000 a month off that with rent, vacancy, and your costs like taxes, insurance, and like water or a sewer bill, I still would have been making almost what most people make in our area in living wages just from a rental property that was paid off because I lived there instead of living in an apartment. I did buy a cheap house and live in, but I should have bought the small apartment building setup. Big mistake in my life. I thought about it and I didn't do it. So my advice to people is that's the mistake I made in my life. I'm giving you that advice. Whether you take and use it, that's fine. But any young person watching, that's one thing you need to really think about. Why rent an apartment building? If you have good credit and you can figure out how to get the downstroke, and that's a little bit of a trick, and then you can literally live free where you live, and that's a beauty. Like some people recommend duplexes. I love duplexes. It's a great way to go. By the time you move on to your big house, they're both paid off, and then you got all rent. So, and you can use the equity in that to buy your next house. So you use it as collateral basically, and I do that a lot. You know, I've got millions of dollars worth of farm ground paid off that I can literally go to the bank and say, here's my 20% down. And they say, yep, you're good for it. You know, when I walk in to get a bank loan, I walk in a hoodie and jeans. Sometimes I'm actually dirty. My banker doesn't even care. I've got so much credit with my bank now that they expect me to look like this. If I came in a suit, they would think something's really wrong with Keenan. They would go, wow, what is up? You know, if you can't work on the stuff, it's going to hinder you. If you can't find one that's already running, that's going to be hard. Building a laundromat is not easy. The one I built was very stressful. I did not like it. It's beautiful and it turned out great. I'm going to do a video of all the pictures of it and talk about it. But it was very stressful, and I probably would never do it again. I would never develop a property because it took me months to build this laundromat. And literally like a few months later, one came up as a repo. I could have bought it, just had some guy paint it, had the equipment dealer put equipment in it. It already had all the hardware, the plumbing, you know, the infrastructure, and I would have been up and running in a month, as opposed to 2-3 months dealing with this, dealing with the headaches of permits, dealing with the headaches of contractors not showing up, telling you they're going to do something, they don't do it, or they do it wrong. One time I had to rip a whole pipe out because they put in the wrong material, and I said, I'm not paying for this, so I cut it out, threw it out in the street. So I would not really build one, to tell you the truth. I know that sounds bad, but that's a big mistake too. I just find one that's depreciated in value because they've run it down, and be the one that fixes it up. There are people out there, and I've known a few, they will buy a car wash, fix it up, get it running real good, make it make money, and they will sell it to somebody. They will buy an oil change place, get it up, get it running, and sell it to somebody. That's their whole business, is to rehab businesses. My CPA, and I should do a video on this guy, he is rehabbing an auto body dealership that went defunct. He is literally turning this business around, and he is going to market it up and sell it to somebody. So that's a business too. So it's a little more advanced, but that is what some people do. And you can do that with a laundromat, just like mine. That's what I may do. You know, here's 10, 13 years later, I may take these things since they're paid off and go, you know what? I'm going to go make $300,000. Bang, right out the door. Because I own the real estate, I own the laundromat, I can sell one of them probably for $350,000 once this virus thing goes away. So that's my advice for you. I hope that's helpful. I know if you have more questions, don't be afraid to email me or write a comment. I get them all the time. And I don't mind answering them. I love answering them. What I really dislike on the internet, and it's kind of sad, is if I give you my tips, I'm not afraid of you using them. You're not going to compete with me on such a level that you're going to take my deals away, okay? But what I don't like on the internet is these gurus that are trying to sell you courses, and it's basic information. And they all get into this point where their ego gets so big, they want to sell you courses. And a lot of the stuff they're teaching you is really basic. I mean, even your realtor, you go to a realtor or a banker, after a while you ask a few questions, they'll pretty much tell you the same thing that person's telling you, you know. To do a lot of real estate, you don't have to be a whiz at how the Fed works. You don't have to be a whiz at how recessions, depressions work. Because I'll tell you what, I bought farm ground back in 08. It was worth $3,000 an acre. It's now worth $10,000 an acre. We've had a depression, a recession, and a virus, and some other dips and hips. It's still worth more money. I didn't need to know anything about recession, stagflation, depression. I didn't need to know any of that. I knew that I was buying an asset that over time would be worth something. Anyway, I started making these videos just because I was tired of the gurus. They get everybody in these classes, and some of them just, they have good content, but it's way overpriced for what it is. Some of them have really low price stuff, and it's pretty good. Meet Kevin if you ever want to watch a video on financing. I love his videos because Meet Kevin is honest. And actually, you don't even need to buy his course, ironically. In his videos, he tells you way more than he should, because honestly, I pick out his videos and I'm like, well, that's a trip, that's a tip, that's something, that... I don't know in his course if he sits there and just goes one-on-one with you or what. I don't really need it, but he might. But in his videos alone, he has a lot of good content. And that's why I watch his videos from time to time. So even I can learn stuff from somebody else. Even he can learn stuff from somebody else. We're always learning. We're always trying to figure out how to get to the next level. If you liked the video, don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe.